היי כולם, אהלן, שומעים אותי?
שומעים.
יופי, תודה. אז אנילה עוד רגע תצטרף אלינו, ולפני שהיא תגיע כמה הודעות רגילות. אז מזכירים שכל ההקלטות שלנו נמצאות בעמוד היוטיוב של ידידי הדרמה, ממש כל הפרקים מההתחלה, אז מי שהפסיד ורוצה להשלים מוזמן. מי שרוצה ויכול, נשמח אם תפעילו את המצלמה, כי זה ייתן לנו תחושה של סנגה, יותר מאשר מסכים מוחשכים, אם זה מסתדר. אנחנו קוראים את הטקסט של שנטידבה, ואפשר למצוא אותו בעמוד של המפגשים באתר של ידידי הדרמה, ואפשר למצוא שם גם פרשנויות וטקסטים נוספים. ודבר אחרון זה דנה, כל הפעילויות של ידידי הדרמה וכמובן של אנילה מתבצעות בהתנדבות. מי שרוצה לתת בחזרה מאוד מוזמן לעשות את זה באתר של ידידי הדרמה, בדף של המפגשים עם אנילה. יש שם קישור לפייפל למי שרוצה, או פרטי העברה בנקאית אם זה יותר נוח. אז זה ככה אפשרות למי שרוצה לתת. זהו, זה הכל. אנילה ממש עוד רגע תצטרף אלינו. Hey, Anila.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Good.
I see it's hot. I think, yeah? Here it's very cold. It's cold, it's rainy, it's gray, but it's great because it's good for nature, isn't it? Okay, good. So I don't know how the lecture will be this evening because I was at the dentist this morning and I had, he made holes in my jawbone in order to put 2 implants. So, so we'll see. I'm a bit full of painkillers and other stuff, and no nasty substances, but you know, things that one need at that moment. Oh, we have Tommy here. How are you? You can open your microphone and you can say hi and everybody can wave to you. Now you need to open your microphone, Tommy. Yeah, no, again you closed it. There.
Okay,
Okay. How are you?
good. Rami is here also.
Ah, there, okay. Hi. Tommy, it's about patience, you know?
He needs it.
All right.
Oh,
Talk to me about it.
we will. We will talk about the benefits of suffering. This is the topic of this evening.
Suffering is my expertise, as you know.
Okay, yeah, good. So I'll tell you the benefits of it. Or let's say you have to find out yourself. This is what we're going to talk about. Okay, so how about, like always, we start with a small kind of, you know, training in awareness, because as we said, if you are looking at your negative emotions, and if you are looking at the mistakes that you make, or looking at things that are, you know, that we, if we would have a choice, we would choose something different. It is really important that you do that with a lot of compassion for yourself, because otherwise you start to hate yourself, and things go the other way. Otherwise it just gets worse. And you know, there is no, in Buddhism, although it sounds like this sometimes, when they say, oh, but precious human rebirths, you have to hurry up, you're going to die soon, and then you'll end up in a lower state and all this. So for us Westerners, sometimes I think it's, unless you really understand what is being said, unless you already have this ability to kind of take good care of your mind, even though you're making mistakes, and even though you're not performing like you want to perform. So for us Westerners, this, you know, it puts more stress and more pressure on us sometimes. So when we talk about self-compassion, which the Tibetans, they don't really need, because they, you know, they have compassion for others and it's good for them. And then, I'm not saying everybody, but then it makes them feel somehow better about themselves. Yeah, they don't have to prove all the time how wonderful and how good they are, so that other people can admire them, because they understand this is samsara, especially the ones who practice. You know, they understand these points of view. I have no control over how other people see me, so why should I get upset when somebody's criticizing me, because there's also other people that praise me. Why should I get so elated when somebody is praising me, because there's also others that criticize me? So in Buddhism, one always talks about this middle way, like not too much of this and not too much of that, but also like in a way that's really healthy, because the practice is not to make you depressed and feeling really bad about yourself, how bad you are, and you know, had no compassion. And then we have these high ideals of bodhisattvas who only work for the benefit of others, and then we try and then we fail, because it's very difficult. Yeah, it's just, as long as we are inspired by this idea that we could develop a mind that wants to benefit all sentient beings, I think for us it's good enough. So if, you know, for the self-compassion, in order for it not to go into self-pity, because that's the danger about self-compassion, that again, it goes into self-pity and you're just concentrated on your own suffering. It's the biggest problem in the world or in the universe. And so you already need, and this is why I always start with this, although, you know, these few minutes of awareness that we are making, they're not going to make that much difference, to be realistic. It's just to show you that it is something you could do, and it would be good if you train that, let's say, every day, even if it's just 5 minutes, and then expand instead of once a month, an hour, and just, you know, gritting your teeth until the hour is finished, and then coming out and saying, wow, imagine I was meditating for 1 hour. You were probably just sitting for 1 hour. I doubt that you were meditating, when you're not trained. So, and then to generate or to create some awareness, the awareness that is able to make the step out of the emotion to look at the emotion. And this is a training, and we train this with the body, kind of. That's the first object, that we look, how does the body feel? What are the body sensations? And so on. So, okay, somebody has just come in. I can't read, it's a very short name. It's only got 2 letters. Maybe you can mute her, God? Because sometimes people don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to, but for some reason I can't. So I will write her a message.
That's okay. Okay, so now she left again. Oh, I hope we didn't accept her or him. So in order to have this awareness, so that you're not being carried away by, by looking at your suffering, this is very important, especially when you want to learn to see the benefit of suffering. And then we need to discuss this with others. So I hope we will have some discussion this evening, because the dentist told me not to talk so much today. So I said, well, I probably have to. So if you help me with the discussion, then I can tell him in 10 days when I go back, oh, the Israelis, they were so kind that they took over and kind of created the session themselves by discussing with each other. That would be nice, isn't it? Actually, we talked about Israel today, and he said that Israel is very, very good dentists, and that Israelis are always kind of looking for the new things, because he's one of those also. He's always has the new things. So he's got great admiration for Israeli scientists and dentists. So not everybody hates you, okay? Also my dentist thinks that, yeah, Israelis are really good, because they, they look for the small things and they figure it out, and they use reasoning and these kind of things. So when we talk about, when we look at the suffering and we try to create some compassion for ourselves, important to make that step out of the suffering, so that you are in the awareness, because the awareness itself is a neutral mind state, and therefore you're not getting so carried away by it. Then also another aspect which comes with self-compassion is to see the shared humanity that we have. When it's self-pity, you're alone in that thing. You don't see how other people suffer as well, or suffer even more. You don't even want to see it, because it seemingly makes you even more depressed. Because we always have a bit this arrogant thinking that we can be of real benefit to others, which we can't really, because we don't even know how to help ourselves. It's okay helping, that's fine. But to really to give people the kind of happiness that everybody wants, we included, meaning 24-hour happiness. Every being wants a 24-hour happiness. We have to be aware of this, not just us, like everybody else, and nobody has it. So like, we don't even want 1 second of suffering, is it? The moment we have suffering of pain, even if it's just 1 second, even if it's maybe 10 seconds, we immediately try to do something about this. I mean, we can't even bear flies. Yeah, fly was about, they don't even bite like mosquitoes, but if it lands on your arm, we can't even bear this. So what about bearing bigger suffering? So to see the shared humanity, yeah, and also not to feel responsible for what is happening in the world, you personally. That is what makes you depressed. It's like too much ego coming in and thinking that you have to make a difference. And then to really, with the self-compassion, to really start to nourish yourself, to ask yourself, when you are in the awareness, not in the self-pity, yeah, to really ask yourself in a very realistic way, what would I need now? Yeah, and not to belittle also the suffering that you have. When I talk about shared humanity, that doesn't mean that you look at other people who suffer even more than we do, and then you go like, oh my gosh, I should be happy. I mean, look at these poor guys. Why am I not happy? Again, you're going totally the wrong way. That's because it can happen very, very often. I tell you, I have Swiss friends who told me, oh no, we're not coming to visit you in India again because, wow, just seeing all these poor people and the poor dogs. Swiss people were more interested in the dogs, in the stray dogs in Bulgaria, more actually than the people, I have to say. Not everybody, but they say, it makes me feel bad, so I'm not coming anymore. So I say, well, but if you come and from time to time you give some money to a beggar, it's beneficial if you come, you know. You don't have to feel guilty. It's not your responsibility what is happening to those people. But it seems that one is not able to enjoy when one sees these kinds of things. Even though, having said that, we all know that this is happening in the world. So we don't need to kind of see it with our eyes. In the head, we know what is happening in the world. So then, yeah. So like that. So it's not the point looking at others and then you feel even you feel guilty that you're not as bad as they are. You know, there's always this kind of competition, who suffers more. It's so stupid. Why? I mean, why do you want to make a competition about who suffers more? Yeah. When we said somebody is telling us what is happening to them, and then we're telling them what's happening to us, and then they go, yeah, but it's not the same. So yeah, it's suffering altogether. So then to really go inside, to acknowledge the suffering, to acknowledge the pain, because life is painful. Sorry, this is what the Buddha says. Sometimes we don't want to recognize it. Sometimes we don't want to see it. Yeah, we don't see this as a fact because we only understand the suffering of pain. Yeah, we don't understand the suffering of change and the old pervasive conditioned suffering. So then we say, yeah, but life is okay, you know. Maybe now with the coronavirus, now we understand that it can, you know, this okayness is just totally fake because it's so unstable. It is so insecure. It can just, boom, finish like that. Yeah, so this is a good thing to know. It's a good thing to know, not because to make us feel depressed and even more sad, but it's a good thing to know so that if you are a Buddhist, you know how to get out of it. You know that it has causes, and if you are not a Buddhist, then at least you can, again, you don't feel so alone in that suffering. You see that everybody else is undergoing some kind of suffering as well. Yeah. To feel that, to see that life is difficult, and then to see, well, what would I need right now? Something realistic, you know, if you go, okay, what would I need right now? Well, a holiday in the Caribbean. If it's realistic, buy a ticket and go, but I don't know if the airline is flying at the moment. Maybe not. So usually it's just mental attitudes that all of a sudden we discover that we need. Yeah. So, but the first step is awareness, to train the mind to be able to look at your emotions, to look what's going on without being too much involved in it, or without becoming the emotion. Do you see what I mean? Or do you have questions about this? Huh? If you could at least nod, that would be helpful because I can't read minds, okay?
We understand what you're saying, Angela.
Thank you very much. Nodding is okay, you know. Nodding is very nice because then I don't think I just talk to puppets or something. Because I have you all on the screen, the ones who ask the camera, which I find really nice. I like to see people's faces. I know that some people like Dalit, she doesn't have a camera. Yes, Leora, you raised your hand. You have to unmute yourself when you say something.
About seeing others suffering and not feeling guilty.
Yeah.
And I thought when you mentioned it, that it is very difficult to see suffering of others in India or in the territories or everywhere. And it's sometimes easier to ignore in order to suppress it, not face it, because it's difficult. And the only way, that's what Buddhism gave me, and it's so beneficial, so very beneficial. If I know that I'm doing whatever I can,
Yeah.
and even if it's just mantras and prayers and so on, it's much easier and it's possible to face it. It's good if I can do more.
Yeah.
But to do nothing and watch and face it, it's difficult for me.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is why I told those people, if you don't come anymore, you know, it doesn't make them feel better. But if you come and give them some money from time to time, that's beneficial. Or as you say, just walking through the crowds of beggars and just generate loving kindness and compassion. I know for people who don't practice, it sounds like kind of a bit hypocritical. You know, you're not giving them anything, but you open up your heart and all this. But I tell you, when you see these people and you go, wow, wouldn't it be wonderful if these people were in a better state? Wouldn't it be wonderful if they were free from suffering? Yeah, and then to understand also they have the potential to become Buddhas, to become enlightened, and then to understand the law of cause and effect, or dependent arising. You know, this whole thing has causes. Then you see, okay, what are the causes that I can see? We talk about Indian beggars. You talk about the people in the territories. The causes, I can see that one of the biggest cause is kind of self-cherishing, grasping at the self, only thinking about oneself or one's own group in this case, right? Not understanding that we are a shared humanity, thinking that if I have enough and thinking that I have what I want, then I will be happy and then maybe I can go and help others. So this is the main cause for this suffering. And then the other cause is greed and aggression. Yeah. So we cannot change other people's minds not to be aggressive and not to be greedy, but we can change our own mind and expand. I have problems with the words, and exchange our, you know, to recognize our greed and aggression. So then when I see in myself, I have it. Okay, maybe smaller than Mr. Trump and all the other guys. But I also have it when things don't go the way I want it to go. And then to be able to transform that, you know, and the moment you're not plagued by these mental poisons anymore, you're well, you're much better. And then you can also help. And you help in whatever way you can. And then, you know, not forgetting what the Dalai Lama said when somebody asked him, it was in France, and somebody asked him about, you know, what to do about low self-esteem. As you say, when you see all this suffering and you can't do anything about this and all this. So Dalai Lama said, come on, stop it. Who do you think you are? Do you think you're God? You think you're Muhammad? You think you're Jesus? You think you're the Buddha? And then he said, look at them. They have all failed because all of them wanted everybody to be happy, but they also didn't succeed. So who do you think you are? Yeah, so that's very, very helpful. So then again, you know, I talked about awareness before. So then again, without awareness, you will not be able to see what is going on in your mind. Whether it's just an excuse not to look and say, well, you know, there's nothing I can do about this, or whether genuinely you can accept that you cannot do anything about this, but you can have a good heart and you can start to understand the causes. And understanding the causes, it doesn't mean that you say, oh, karma, they deserve it. Lao, they should be happy because it ripens for them. Next life, they will be really happy because this life they suffer a lot. Total misunderstanding of karma. Total misunderstanding of karma. Yeah. But when we think about law of cause and effect, what we see is there is no such thing as an absolute victim, and there is no such thing as an absolute aggressor. Our kind of confused mind is making that. And Shantideva will, I don't know if we get that far in the verses, because he's talking about that. He's talking about, maybe next Wednesday we come to that. He's talking about the complexity of situations. Yeah. That we don't see. When we are angry, when we're disturbed, when we are depressed, we see one cause, and the cause is outside, is never inside here when somebody's harming us. It's always people's fault. Yeah. Like also, you know, the destruction of the planet, the global warming and all this, we're all in it. It's also our fault because we have a life that is very, very comfortable and we need a lot of resources from Mother Earth. Yeah. And we're not ready to give up. That's the problem. Yeah. So of course, then the other thing is that we very often we see the mistakes of others and then we excuse our little ones by saying, oh, but look, I just do a little bit. You know, the others, they do much more. But it's much better to say, well, you know, I am part of this. And then let me see what I can do. Yeah. So as Leora says, we can, you know, we can pray for these people in the whatever who have suffering by opening up our heart. This is why we do the 4 immeasurables. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they were happy and they were free from suffering? Again, for somebody who doesn't practice, for somebody who hasn't really tasted these states of minds that come from just words, by just repeating these words until you feel that your heart opens, then for them it sounds very hypocritical. And also when I say we can pray for them, it's not really praying, because we're not asking the Buddha, please go and help them. Yeah, we're just generating the thought in our mind, it would be wonderful if they were happier and had the causes for happiness. It would be wonderful if they were free from suffering. Because when these attitudes are in our mind, which is loving kindness and compassion, whatever we can do to help, we will do to help. When it's not there, then we feel very self-absorbed, we feel depressed, we get angry at the people who are creating that situation. Like Bruno said, you know, last week, he said, how can you not get angry at somebody who drives around drunk with a car? And I say, well, you know, then you're walking around being angry all the time, because what I see at the moment, most of the people, I don't know how it is in Israel, but definitely most of the people in Switzerland, they're totally self-absorbed, you know. We kind of don't throw trash out because we will get a fine or somebody sees us. But if you go to somewhere where there's not many people passing, there's a lot of trash there also, especially in the forests. So it looks clean, but it's not really. In the lakes and in the forest, there's a lot of trash. So what are you going to get angry at these people? You know, getting angry at them is not going to stop them. But a good way to do is, like, I think we said it last time already, when you see somebody doing, like driving around drunk, it's good to say, this is not a good action. I mean, this is very unskillful, but you don't have to get angry in order to say that. You need to be reasonable. And then to say, I will never do that. And then when we're honest, we see that sometimes we do it as well. I mean, I did drive around drunk, you know, thinking that, okay, so what? Not even thinking anything, just needing to go home. When I still had the restaurant, we went to the nightclub after every time we closed at midnight, then we went to the nightclub, a few of us. And I wasn't sober when I drove home. I'm really happy that nothing ever happened. Yeah. So these people are not bad people. They're just stupid like I was. Not considering how, because then, you know, they wouldn't take away your driving license. You just paid a fine and that was it. We didn't have the blowing thing yet. So you could actually get away with it quite okay. So I did belong to that category of people. Now I would never do this again, because also I don't drive anymore. Also I don't drink. So, but it's good to, you know, in order not to get angry at these people who do these things, because it doesn't really help. But I know that it feels so natural to get angry. It seems so heartless, actually, not to get angry. Yeah, it seems as if you have no concern for them when you're not getting angry. I mean, for the victims. But that's not the way it is. When we talk about compassion, we have concern for the one who's driving around drunk and for the people he might hurt. Yeah. So don't drive around drunk, because just I did it like many years ago and nothing happened. I was really lucky, I think. At one point, I drove into a field. I fell asleep, and I drove into a field, and then I woke up, and then was totally awake for the rest of the journey. Then to go home, I continued to drive. I wasn't so drunk then; I was more tired, and I fell asleep. It's just as dangerous as driving around drunk, by the way. Okay, so let's try and generate or how to say. We do some awareness, and then we do some kind of thinking about our own good sides, because we don't do that enough, especially when we look at texts like this. Then we have we kind of concentrate on the negative sides that we have that we want to transform. But if you don't trust your good sides, if you're not in contact with them, you just feed your negative sides of depression, self-hatred, and all these other kinds of things. Okay? Okay, so you try to sit with a straight back if possible, totally relaxed, not even wanting to meditate. Drop the word meditation. Yeah. Be natural, but awake. Try to sit with a body that expresses relaxed and awake. And maybe even being in control, like nothing to fear. The posture of a Buddha is fearless, because he understands cause and effect. And then very often we think that the body is relaxed, but we're not aware that it is not. So you need to look, you need to scan the body. So what shall we do? We can do the calm, CALM method again, to go through different parts of the body. So the first one is C, is chest. So you look at your chest, you fully go there with your full attention without wanting to manipulate anything. Don't move, okay? We're just doing this with the mind by seeing the tensions that we're holding. So you go to your chest. As you breathe in, you notice the body sensations. As you breathe out, you open up, become very wide and very spacious. You can also say you let go of your tensions. I don't really like the word letting go, because I don't want this, I let go. No, it's more open up, become spacious. Try to bring that word spacious as an experience into your chest, or open. As you breathe in, you notice the body sensations. As you breathe out, you open totally, become very spacious. Then the next one is A, is arms. So you sweep down both of your arms with your awareness until your hands. Again, when you breathe in, you notice the body sensations, especially in the hands, a tingling, something moving, maybe a twitching. As you breathe out, you become very open and very spacious. Next one is L. So it's legs. So you go to the lower part of your body. You can start at your abdomen, your buttocks, genital areas. Sweep down both your legs to your feet. As you breathe in, you are aware of your body sensations. As you breathe out, you open up, become spacious. The last one is M, so that could be mouth, because especially around the mouth, we always hold tensions, but let's do the whole face. And you will notice the small tensions you're holding: jaws, cheeks, and eyes, behind or around your eyes, and your front. Especially mouth and eyes are these areas that we pull together. As you notice it, become soft, open, and spacious. And then you put your awareness on your breath. So you need to put a little bit of effort so that the awareness stays on the breath. Don't be afraid of that effort. Don't be tense, but you can feel effort. It's a mental factor that pushes the attention or the awareness to or holds it there on the breath. And it actually gives you energy if you're not too tense. It wakes you up also. So don't let the awareness go into thoughts. If thoughts come, that's fine. Just notice them, but don't follow them if you can. If you have a lot of thoughts, then concentrate on the raising and falling of your abdomen. If you're very sluggish or tired, concentrate on the little pressure that you feel at your nostrils when you breathe in. So this is how you can work with your actual state of mind. Another good way, if you have problems keeping the breath, is when you kind of imagine that you're breathing with your whole body, because then the object is very big, is very tangible, is very easy to find. The breath is quite subtle. This is why we lose it all the time. So try out whatever method seems to be the best for you at the moment. Don't be too tense, but also not too loose. And let the awareness or the attention rest on your breath. Let it be with the breath. No need to make plans, no need to figure out something, especially no need to hang around in the past, because the past is finished. There's nothing we can change there. We can learn from it, that's all. We cannot change the past. Just to be with your breath. It's simple, but it's not easy because we're so used to think. We're so used to be not present. And then the mind is creating stories that we don't even notice. And then these stories become the truth. And it doesn't have much to do with reality, but we totally believe in them. So just be with the breath. That is what is happening at the moment. You don't have to be with the next breath. It's easy. You only have to be with this breath. This one breath now. Fully there, and try to feel how that feels. When the mind is fully on the object. And then with this kind of calm mind, then we start to look how we feel. And we can even start to kind of look just in one direction. And this one, the direction that we're going to look at, is our own goodness. That we very often lose when we're disturbed by destructive emotions. So think about somebody that you know this person cares about you. And take in the good feeling of being cared about. When you have a chance to feel seen, listened to, appreciated, liked, valued, or loved. Just take a moment to savor this experience, letting it fill your mind and the body. Sinking into it as it sinks into you. You become that feeling. Then the next step is you recognize the goodness in your acts, in your thoughts, in your words, and in your deeds. These can include positive intentions, putting the brakes on your anger, restraining addictive impulses, extending compassion and helpfulness to others, grit and determination. Loving kindness, courage, generosity, patience, and a willingness to see and even name the truth, whatever it is, with a calm mind. When you're recognizing facts, you create a sanctuary in your mind for this recognition, holding at bay other voices, other forces that would invade and plunder this sanctuary for their own agenda, such as the internalization of peoples you've known who made themselves feel big by making you feel small. Then the third step is sense the goodness at the core of your being. This is a fundamental honesty and benevolence. It's there inside of everyone, no matter how obscured. It can feel intimate, impersonal, perhaps sacred. A force, a current, a wellspring in your heart. So a very easy way to feel this is by just thinking, I am a good person. And just drop all the ifs and buts. You are a good person. Our nature is goodness. I am a good person. When you start to believe in it, then you can live it. And here it's not about other people, don't be afraid. Oh, if that one thinks this is such a rotten person, it's not about others, it's about us. I am a good person. What others do is none of my concern for the moment. I am a good person. And then when we see our own goodness, we can also see the goodness in others. Recognizing their goodness will help you feel your own. So what we can do is observe everyday small acts of fairness, kindness, and honorable effort in others. Try to remember maybe something from today. A kind act that you have seen somebody do. How does it make you feel? So then out of these 4 steps, the last step can then develop, which is give over to goodness. Increasingly let the better parts of your nature be the animating force of your life. In tricky situations or relationships, ask yourself, being a good person, what would be appropriate here? As you act from this goodness, let the knowing that you are a good person sink in even more deeply. Okay. This is not from me, by the way, of course not. I cannot come up with such very helpful things. It's by Rick Hansen. I don't know if anybody knows him. It's like this gang of, Tara Brach, Rick Hansen, and Christine Neff, who are doing a lot with this. You don't know them? So, yeah. So whenever you have problems or whatever, then listen to one of those people. whenever things get really tough and you're really tight. They have a lot of YouTube talks and guided meditation. Rick Hansen is a psychologist also, and they're all practicing Buddhists. Okay, so let's go to the text. I think last time we got until verse 14, where the verse is, there is nothing whatsoever that is not made easier through acquaintance. So through becoming acquainted with small harms, I should learn to patiently accept greater harms. I just read it, Gal, it's okay. I think because, if you don't understand what I'm saying, you can ask, okay? So the homework was kind of whenever you have challenging moments, that you welcome them as ways and means to train. Did anybody do this, or some people are nodding? Tommy is nodding. Would you let us know what happened? If you can give us like a specific, it's good if you give me a specific like situation. One is enough. And then you tell us the outcome when we say, okay, now I can train.
I'll try.
Yeah, try. Thanks.
We had two couples over for Rami's 70th birthday.
Uh-huh.
And I brought the subject of the advantages and disadvantages of being 70.
Okay.
And they are not Buddhists. So I started by saying that it's not easy to get older, and there are many disadvantages. Of course, there are advantages also. And I mentioned death, of course, getting closer, and sickness, and helplessness, and all things that can come and will come.
Yeah.
And they resisted it completely.
Mm-hmm.
They said that they have never been so happy, that this is the best time of their lives, because the children are older, and they are wealthy, they can do what they want, and they insisted that they still can have the strength to do what they want.
Yeah.
And I felt very upset.
Really?
I couldn't convey what I felt. They didn't accept it, and I was left with this kind of frustration, and also thinking, I don't know, everybody seems so happy, with their lives, and I'm so involved with suffering and with the old age and sickness and and death, and what am I doing? So it was not easy. I had to keep thinking about it, and
okay, but you were not here last week, because I said, consciously welcome situations like this in your mind, going, oh, great. Now they are doing something I don't like. Now I can train to let go of that bad feeling that they're giving me. Did you do that? Did you?
I tried. I don't know if it takes time. I listened to the last teaching and to the teaching before it.
I see. Okay, so then you knew the.
So I did try to use it as something to work with, but it didn't happen overnight.
Really?
It took a few days.
So it's interesting. I mean, why do you think that it affected you so much? I mean, if people tell me how happy they are, I say like, well, it's fantastic. I'm really happy for you that everything seems to be going well. And I'm not coming then saying, but everything is impermanent. It can change any moment. I'm just happy for their happiness, and it's fine.
I don't know. I
felt fake, even if it's fake. So what? I mean,
I thought that it was kind of denying. It was denial. And for some reason, it shook me. It kind of got me out of balance. I don't even know why, but that was the situation that I coped with this with.
It's an interesting situation. It would be good to see, you know, how sometimes we think that we know that they are denying it, but we don't know. Maybe they are very happy.
Absolutely. I don't think that I was
and then
right.
it makes us, then it's good to see, why does it make me upset? Especially me. I'm supposed to be a Bodhisattva. I should be happy when other people are happy. Why am I getting upset? You know, people are happy, no work for me. Fantastic for the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this thought made me even more upset.
It's good that you can laugh about it. This is why it's good to talk about these things also. Tommy was also saying, Tommy, the other Tommy Horowitz was, I think you were noting also. Tommy, would you like to share what your story?
I won't share my whole story because
okay.
the last month and a half was quite difficult for me and for my family. My father has passed away.
Okay.
And things are tough around here.
Yeah.
And I was thinking a lot about what you said about to endure hardship. And there were difficult situations around in my house, in my family, at work, because also at work we deal with hard situations. And I was just thinking about the last lesson, trying to endure, trying to breathe in to these situations. And I found it easier for me, not easier, but after I succeeded a little bit, I felt I was much stronger to cope with everything going around. I was just thinking about it. I wrote it down, and I was thinking about it a lot in the shower, actually.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good place to think, the shower, I think. Yeah, sometimes when we say, okay, let's go into it, let's lean into it and not go away from it. I think last time we did a short reflection when I was asking you to remember moments when you were able to lean into it instead of kind of shying away from it, to see how you feel, how you know, because the leaning into us that's the training, and it makes you stronger. The thing is also, you know, verse 13 was they are enduring hardships, but it's good to train with smaller things. And this is then the next verse somewhere, I think. Verse 15, maybe we should have added that as well. So it's really good to train with smaller things instead of the smaller things, because they're too small to really consciously train. Then we just let them go. Yeah. So, and then when you train with smaller things, of course, then you get better and better, and you get as good as, let's say, Lama Zopa, you know. I don't know if anybody knows Lama Zopa. Some of you, Maya knows. Maya, look, just the name is bringing big grin on her face. How wonderful. Yeah, this is why it's good to have a guru. You just need to think about the person. Boom, you know, you just light up. So when he had his stroke and he couldn't move his right hand, and he was just looking at the hand and he burst out laughing. You know, I mean, I would be worried to death. Oh, I'd be dependent on others. I can't do things on my own again. But he thought it was so ridiculous that he couldn't move his right hand right at the beginning. And there's a small video when he was in hospital, and they tried to, you know, and he looked like totally not dignified. He was wearing a singlet. He was wearing a bib because he was dribbling, because his mouth was also not in control. So I think it was Sangpo who was trying to put a pill on his lip so that he could swallow it, because, you know, he's a Rinpoche. So for the attendants, they're not going with their hands into his mouth like we would do. You can't, because they see him as Buddha. So he's just trying to put this thing on his lip, and he kept falling down. And Rinpoche was laughing and laughing and laughing. And, you know, and he couldn't speak at that moment. Nobody knew, can he walk again? Can he speak again? Can he use his arm again? I mean, look at him now. He's kind of teaching. So this for us is too high. So don't expect that from your practice. But to see this as an inspiration that this is possible, you know, and then to start really small. Anybody else tried it out? Like changing from, for example, changing from I don't want this to this is the thing, yeah? Usually it's like, I don't want this because we want 24 hours happiness, to, okay, now I have an opportunity to train. Ronnie.
Yes, it's something very small, but the point that
Doesn't
it's
matter.
very small is, well, you know me a little, so you know when I'm telling you something that it's kind of, that's how it was. So I'm in charge of most of the things in the building,
Yeah.
and there are endless
Yeah, that's the
stories.
nature of buildings, Ronnie.
Yes. And this Sunday, I know it was Sunday because I got this migraine that I couldn't attend the Kelsang Wangmo's lesson.
Okay.
And somebody with a car hit the main water supply pipe with a car and ran away. And we were without water, and I had to call and see that they will come urgently and tell them house with old people and blah, 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 and pay attention and that they are coming and doing, and the guy comes. And so I wrote the other guy with me in the building, whom you know, I said, just in case, could you call them to see if they are charging us? The reply was very, very annoying.
Okay.
And with my temper, there's no way in certain cases that I would have been able to swallow it. I'm not your kit bag. That was the reply. I'm not your kit bag, which means don't throw on me stuff. And telling me off, long sentences of telling me off. And I felt, with the migraine coming on me, I felt very calm. And I said, that's a harsh reaction. That's it. And continued telling him how I dealt with it. That's it. You know, he became as soft as butter. But it was not an effort for me. It just came like that.
That's the training.
And my feeling, knowing that I'm short-tempered, was why can't I be like that all the time?
Yeah, so every time you have to deal with this person, you think, great, I have to deal with him again, so I can practice patience again. How wonderful. Thank you, whoever it is.
Yeah.
So like this, because it is training. It's just habit. You know, one is short-tempered or patient because one was born like this. You were born short-tempered or patient because you trained in previous lives. You know, with these kind of attitudes, we think, oh no, it's like DNA. But when it's things like, you know, 2.5-year-old boys playing the drums like Keith Moon, like this Vietnamese boy, what's his name? Howard Moon or something.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the way he plays the drums is like a professional. I don't know if you've ever seen him. He's 2.5 years old. It's not possible that he learned this in this life. Then we start to accept rebirth. But when it comes to patients, short-tempered, like very generous, very stingy, very kind, very self-centered, then we think it's only from this life. Why? You know, it doesn't have to be something as extraordinary as being able to sing or play the piano or, you know, the drums or whatever. It can be our attitudes. We train them and then we continue because the mind already goes in that direction of patience or short-tempered. Then we could continue to train. Yeah, so if it's patience, it's fantastic. If it's short-tempered or depressed or only seeing the negative sides or all this can be changed. And it can only be changed when the person itself sees how much suffering that creates and puts effort. It's painful. It's very painful to change these habits. It's like detox. Because following habits is very easy, even though we know it's harmful, in the long run it will not be good and all this, we know it here, but it's so much easier to follow the habit than saying no. Yeah. By the way, when we talked about self-compassion also, when we, you know, what do I need right now? It's not only just, oh, loving myself and all this. It can also be a no. I need to say no to this now. Can be yourself, one of your habits. It can also be another person that you have to say, no, sorry, I'm not going to do this. Yeah. And then also what Ronnie says is very nice, and it happens very, very often. If we are not reacting with anger, especially in Israel, this works really well. In Israel, not to react with anger, people are so surprised that they kind of don't know how to do it. It doesn't work so well in Switzerland because we don't have so much outward anger. We have a lot of inward anger, but we don't have outward anger. But actually we practice these things. Be careful then, yeah? It's nice if the result is good and the other person also changes, but that's not the purpose. Because sometimes they also don't change. Sometimes they can say, oh, you know, they don't even see it or they don't feel it. So if they change their behaviors, fine. If they don't, and it's our intention is to change their behavior, then again, it goes into manipulation, you know, being kind. So then they do what I want them to do. So that wouldn't be the right way. And then also it doesn't really matter how the other person reacts. Yeah. So you still continue with the practice. So the practice is for us not to get angry. Okay. Anybody else has something that where they found it was helpful to just welcome it? Leora,
Yeah.
Leora Kenneth, did you do the homework? Because she wasn't able to attend, then I sent her the homework. She said she doesn't. I think you said you don't have anything small at the moment, isn't it?
No, on the contrary, I will reply directly, but I wanted to say something about what you've just said, changing habits. I had a very nice experience last week and this week, not with anger, but it was a small anger. I criticized someone, an architect.
Okay.
And the next day I did it again.
Okay.
And Nomi told me, I don't want to criticize her. So I looked inside, I stopped talking, and I saw immediately that criticism, unless it comes with love to help someone, criticism is a poison and it's a habit. And if I criticize more. And if I stop it, I change the habit. And since it's not a huge thing, not huge habit with me, it was possible. I saw it several times comes up, and I for a week, I stopped criticizing. And I realized that criticizing is a poison. I don't want it. And today you said something, think about the good things of that person. I did it in the meditation, and it opened the heart to the same person which I criticized. It didn't come naturally. It came with someone told me to do it, and you guided us to think about the good part. And I loved the experience. As for the homework, I tried and didn't quite succeed in a good way, because we are moving now in an apartment, and many things don't go the way I want.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
again,
not many things.
That's the same as Ronnie. When I said, you have an apartment, you have a building, that's it. You know, it's be aware it's problems.
Actually, when I thought about it, most of the things goes very well, smoothly and nicely. But when things didn't go the same way, I didn't have to change it. I looked at it and I said, well, what do you expect? So that's it. And they accepted it immediately. So I didn't have a chance to work, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, also we can remember verse 14, you know, there's nothing whatsoever that is not made easier through acquaintance. So through becoming acquainted with small harms, I should learn to patiently accept greater harms. Because I remember every time I went back to India, after having been in Europe for 2 or 3 months, when I was still living in India, when I went back to the moldy room at Tushita, you know, I thought like, oh, how can I live here? But then, you know, after a week, then the room becomes nicer. And then when you have to leave again for Europe, you feel sorry that you have to leave this horrible room. The room was still the same. You know, all the rooms were moldy and smelling bad and really small, and paint is like, none of you would live in a room like this. But yeah.
Although I have to say that they have a new teacher house now, and they have a dehumidifier. So, so the teachers are better.
I see. I spent quite a lot of monsoons in Dharamsala. So, yeah. So, but anyway, so even then it's like this, you know, we have a habit also of, but when anger comes, or like impatience or irritation, when it comes, it exaggerates and it totally blends out everything that is good. And that one thing becomes absolutely bad, you know, and absolutely bad out there. Or when we criticize somebody, you know, when somebody is like not nice to us, we make 3 mistakes when but with our words. We say, you are, like totally objective, not I see you as. It is, you are, you know, always. We make it permanent. So nasty to me. Even and we forget, you know, so this person has also maybe done good things to us. Yeah. But they're not nice, or they don't fulfill our expectations, then you are always so nasty to us, so nasty to me. Even we don't say it, we think like this, you know. So we project objectiveness from that side, permanence and absoluteness. You know, this absoluteness, not seeing other aspects. Okay, so where were we? Verse number 15. Who has not seen this to be so with trifling sufferings, such as the bites of snakes and insects, feelings of hunger and thirst, and with such minor things as rashes? I think I can just continue with verse 16. I should not be impatient with heat and cold, wind and rain, sickness, bondage, and beatings, for if I am, the harm they cause me will increase. Okay, and this is our habit, is when we kind of want to change something. As I said, we have a mind that wants 24-hour happiness unconsciously. Yeah, the pull towards happiness, well-being, free from suffering, and all this is there. And it's a good pull, because this would be our nature, actually. We could be without suffering, we just don't know the real causes for happiness and suffering. So it's good that we look for it. This is why also we make so much progress. You know, this is why the world looks like this, because we know we could be better. But what the Buddha is telling us is like, your mind should be better, not the world outside, because the outside progress, even though it's wonderful, and there's this dehumidifier now at Tushita. You know, it was so funny when I was at Root Institute. It's only Maya who understands these things. Now, maybe Tommy has been to Root Institute also, I don't know. Because Root Institute, when I first went there, it was mud huts with straw roofs. So whenever it rained, we had to gather all our things and go away. Sometimes in the middle of the night, a rat would fall on your bed, which was made out of bricks. The beds were made of bricks and with a straw mat on it. And because the rats would eat the rice in the straw, yeah, when there was, they would fall on your bed. And there were 2 taps of cold water, and I think 2 or 3 plump toilets. Now, Root Institute is paradise, absolutely paradise. And I've seen it being paradise. I've seen it transforming. But one day, I tell you, I looked at the flowers, I looked at the private showers, which have always hot water because there's solar energy to make the hot water. I saw the food, you know, or I tasted the food. And then I was standing there and going, oh, but I still have anger, and I still have attachment, and I still have fear sometimes. And I still haven't understood emptiness. So I saw, you know, all these wonderful things. If I would have to go back to these mud huts with straw roofs, it would be terrible. But the making it better didn't make my mind better. Yeah, if I would have to go back to these very, very difficult things, my mind would be very disturbed. Yeah, but making these, because the things at that time, at the beginning, they were not difficult because everything was like this in Bogaya. You know, the only hotel that existed, I think, was the tourist bungalow or something like that. There were none of these big hotels that they have now. Yeah. So it was a very good discovery. I can change as much as I want outside. Yes, it's nice. And yes, it's comfortable. And yes, and somebody said, oh, but it will make your practice easier. I said, no, I don't even think so. I don't think my practice was worse when I was doing retreat in that mud hut. Yeah. I had less distractions because the food was very boring at that time, you know. But now the food at Root Institute is amazing. So, you know, in the morning session before lunch, you think, oh, I wonder what's going to be for lunch. Your meditation is kind of totally pervaded by this thought. And then you smell the smells coming from the kitchen, you know, depending on where you are and all this. So yeah, so also Tushita, you know, it has changed a lot. I see the pictures and all this. But still, I wonder if people's minds have gone that much. You know, I wonder if people's minds have, evolved in the relationship to how the outside has evolved. When we look at this text from Shantideva, it's from the 8th century. Can you imagine? And we still do the same things. We're still making the same mistakes. So, okay, so we would get, you know, the thing is with awareness, we start to see this constant complaining. What it does, it depletes your happiness hormones, the serotonin. As Leora was saying, criticizing is an unhappy mind because you see unpleasant things. And when we see unpleasant things, unless you take them as a training, they make you feel upset and you don't see the good things anymore, you know. But again, it doesn't mean you're not changing unpleasant things into pleasant things with your mind, okay? Something that is unpleasant and is not right and is injustice, that is injustice and that is not right, you can say so, yeah, but with a calm mind and then taking it as a training, yeah. And also to see, but we'll come to that next time when we see this, the complexity of things that we usually don't see when we are upset.
I think people are even less, you know, have patience today because everything is so fast and quick,
yeah.
You know. So if they don't get immediately electricity, even in India, you know, the things takes time. If they don't get immediately electricity or anything like this, they I mean, so much complaining.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I think in the past people just it's like this. It's more slow in generally,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just crazy. I mean, we are so short.
Yeah, yeah. This is it. I mean, all this comfort that we have is nice. It's true. But one thing is, you know, we destroy the planet because of it, and it doesn't even give us what we want. As you say, it makes us more fragile. Because if I think now I would have to go back and live a winter at Tushita, I would freak out. I wouldn't be able to bear it anymore because here I have central heating. You know, now I'm really spoiled. So all this comfort, all it does is spoiling us. And I was always admiring Indian kids, you know, they were pain tolerant. They had shoes that would give them blisters. It didn't matter as long as they had shoes. They would, if you travel in an Indian train, second class, not second AC, but just normal second class, you know, every Westerner has one berth. For the Indians, there's 5 people on this thing, on this bed. And then if I have one berth, and there, if an Indian puts half of his bum on where I have my feet, you know, this is my berth, go away. They share it with 5 people. One hangs around the chains like this, you know, there's chains coming down like that. The others are, and they all sleep. They all sleep. So if ever you, the younger ones, you think of going to India and you travel second, not AC, second normal, which I used to do, because I saw it as an adventure, not because I didn't have the money, but I thought second AC was too boring. And they only bring this, you know, in the second AC, they only bring the train food. Whereas in the normal with the, you know, with the wooden benches and stuff, they bring the food from the station, from like private hawkers. So I thought it was much more interesting. Yeah. So, so if you ever think that you would want to travel like this, and an Indian wants to sit on your berth, even though it has your number and it's yours, let him sit, because then he will sleep. If you don't let him sleep, he will want to talk. So, you know, they can talk the whole night. It's like, you know, or the radio on the whole night in this kind of traveling kind of class. So, I mean, I've been in India for 17 years, and I think it really helped with my patients, because otherwise, you know, tolerate discomfort and noise, especially the noise. If you're noise kind of resistant, or how to say noise fragile, and you can't stand noise, I mean, don't go to India. It's like it will be hell. Smells. Oh my gosh, it will be hell for you. But because you see, because I liked India so much, when I told people stories from India in Switzerland, they would go, "Why do you live there?" You know, I said, "I don't know, but I love it." And then the smell of pee caca everywhere and all this. So then in Switzerland, at one point, I was in the train station of Zurich, and all of a sudden I smelled caca, and I felt happy. You know, this is, nothing gets easier when you get, because for me, smell of caca was India, and I preferred India to Switzerland because it's so much more alive and all this. And also my teachers were there and the Dharma. And then I thought, hey, this is wrong place. Why does it smell of caca here? So I saw that the trains, the trains, when the toilets in the trains, they are electronic. But something was wrong with the electronic thing. So they all emptied out inside the train station in Zurich. That's why it smelled so much of caca. So, but I'm pretty sure I was the only happy person smelling the caca in the train station Zurich. But I did notice this is the wrong place. So you see, again, it's a good example. This should not happen in Switzerland. In India, it's like, you know, all the shit goes, they even go into train station and all this, you know, everything just goes out. So people would complain. In Switzerland, people would complain when the train was 3 minutes late. Well, 3 minutes was okay, but 10 minutes late. 10 minutes is like 3 hours in India, you know, the train late. In India, you're happy when it comes after 6 hours. You're happy when it comes at all. So yeah, so this is a good, it's all this is really good example. When you choose to be there, then it doesn't matter, because you think you chose it, and you think you have the opportunity to go if you want to go. If you don't like it, then you go. But because I liked India so much, I didn't want to give up the discomfort. Because what I got, like the spiritual training and the teachers and the Sangha and Tushita and Root Institute and all these places, they're perfect if you want to practice, you know. I didn't want to give this up for comfort, which I knew because I had it in Switzerland. I knew that the comfort would never give me what India is giving me. May you choose coming to Israel? Yes, I will come if they let me in. I don't know if they let me in. I heard you have Corona rising again. Yeah, so they are, I think tonight they were thinking about what to do. So if it's open and I can come, I come. If not, then...
They are letting in from countries where the Corona is low.
Yeah, we are very low. We're one of the lowest.
Okay, so you know it, if you have flights, it means you can come in.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll see. We'll see. Okay. Anyway, we'll have to see what happens. You know, it's not much point making big plans here. And then we can plan the program once I'm there. We can be totally relaxed about this. I can also just come for a holiday. Ronnie apparently said that it's okay if I just come for a holiday. Shachar told me that you said it's okay, even if I have nothing to do.
Yes, shall we open it up why Shachar had to ask me?
Yeah, maybe. Oh, he's very polite, you know. Okay, so also a good example. Somebody wrote to me, are you coming? I wrote yes in August. Then she said, oh, but why are you coming in August? It's too hot. Why don't you come when the weather is nicer? So I say, I'm not coming because of the weather. You know, again, if I would come because of the weather and because I want to have a nice time, comfortable time outside, then I wouldn't come. But I am not coming for that, you know. I also am not coming to teach you. I always learn a lot in Israel. Yeah, so it's like it's kind of it goes both ways. So we have a great habit of complaining about things all the time, and we don't even see that not only it doesn't make things better, it actually makes them worse. Now, if you don't complain all the time, it doesn't make things better either, but at least it doesn't make them worse. But it's such a habit. It is such a habit. So the first thing with awareness that you learn is to drop the story. And I tell you, it really takes a long time to see the stories. Because the other day I was coming home, and at the moment, now I'm in the Gompa again. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm also kind of house sitting friends of mine who have a very, very nice apartment in a kind of bourgeois area. So as I was walking home there, then is this guy who comes towards me and he goes like this, you know, in a very disrespectful way. Now, I am used to people kind of react to me in a very strange way. I have learned to deal with it. I have learned that everybody can say to me what they want. Everybody can make gestures. If they would hit me, I would probably run away, but still. So I've really learned not to react to their strange reactions, which is great. Because, you know, when I was 18, I was totally against the bourgeois people. I was totally against the rich, although I came from quite a well-off family. But I was kind of, you know, fan of Bader Meinhof. I don't know if you know them, like the Red Army fraction. And I thought it was okay. They got these old ex-Nazis who have these high posts. They even killed them, like Schleyer. And for me, that was totally okay. So I would have not hit him, but at least told him, stupid asshole, you know, what are you, kind of something like that, or made, you know, this gesture or whatever. So I was totally calm, and I smiled at him, actually spontaneously. I just smiled at him, and he was so surprised also. He smiled back. But then I went home, and at home the story continued, and I didn't really notice first. Then I thought, oh, you know, there's the whole old thing, like from what, now I'm 70, 18, how many years? Wow, 50 years. From 50 years ago, you know, wow, these bourgeois people who are not caring about others and all, you know, I made a story out of this person. I have no idea why he made it, why he made this gesture. Maybe it was disrespectful, maybe it was just for fun, maybe it was, I don't know. But I assumed, okay, he's a bourgeois guy from this quarter here, where he lives. And so at the moment we have demonstrations for like against racism, yeah, in Switzerland, a lot of them. Because of what happened in America, and we also have racism in Europe, you know, I mean, we do, and we have like almost 1/3 of the people living here, they are from, they're migrants. They came here, even though they were born here. Now, it's not the same as in Israel because they're not Jewish. They have different religions. Because I also know you have also many different ethnical people in Israel, but it's not quite the same. So I was kind of going in my head, now he is disapproving these anti-racist demonstrations because he is from the from the right party, kind of Swiss party, you know, right party. And this is why he's discontent. And this is why he kind of is doing this to me. And then I thought, like, what are you doing? I mean, you don't even know this guy. Yeah. But this is how we create opinions and habits. And the next time we see that person, then I already know who he is, although I think I know who he is, but I have no clue who he is. Yeah. So this is this whole thing when if you want to practice patience, you need to drop the story. That, you know, when the situation is finished, but the story continues, blah, 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 blah. And it took me a while to notice what I was thinking, to consciously notice what I was thinking. So this is where awareness comes in, that you start to see your thoughts. Yeah. And it's so important if we want to have transformation. Okay. Can we stop here? Because I did promise the dentist not to talk so much. But I would actually, unless you have questions, because the homework is the same again. I mean, we can do this homework again and again and again and again until it works. You know, to train the mind, whenever you feel resistance, to start to understand pain is not suffering, but pain and resistance is suffering. And not resisting doesn't mean you don't react. It means you react with a calm and open mind by seeing the benefit of the suffering. Yeah. What is the benefit of suffering? Can you remember?
That you can have a motivation to get free of it.
Exactly. One thing. What's another benefit? It comes a bit later. Maybe we do this next time. I think it comes. There's a few. One of the biggest benefits is
it helps you develop compassion towards other people.
Yeah.
When you tap into your own suffering, then you can see other people suffering and their desire to get free of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it also decreases our arrogance, because arrogance is a very big obstacle of transforming. Because, you know, with arrogance, we think, well, I already got it. Why do I have to do anything? Yeah. And arrogance is very, very tricky. It is a mental poison also, but it feels good. So, you know, anger feels not so good. Jealousy doesn't feel good. Depression doesn't feel good. Attachment doesn't feel good. Arrogance feels good. And that's the problem about arrogance. Okay, Sigal, I wrote them. I wrote them in the chat. You have to open the chat. Sigal is again asking, can you say again the names of the teachers? You want me to say them? And I say them again. Rick Hansen, Christine Neff, and Tara Brach. But it's written in the chat. You can open the chat. And Avital is asking me, why do you choose to come to Israel? Well, why not? Why should I not choose to come to Israel? Because I don't have to stay there, you see. But I did say, you know, people said, oh, what if you get stuck? What if it starts again? I said, well, then I get stuck, you know, it's like, it's okay. I like Israel. It's a bit like India. I don't know why, but I do. So, and I don't ask myself, you know, I don't torture myself. Why do I like Israel? Because it's also, you know, I get negative reactions here in Switzerland. Yeah. And I feel getting defensive. So then I have to, you know, then I practice patience. These people, they don't know what it is. Because when I said, when are you going? On the 5th of August, she said, oh yeah, they will be annexing all the territories. It's like, why is she telling me? I know that they're doing it. It's like, you know, so it's like, these kind of reactions when somebody says something, it's good not to go into it, especially here. It's no point. I stopped discussing with people here because we only see nobody sees the complexity of the whole thing, I think. Yeah.
Anila?
Yeah.
Rami asks if he, as a guest, can ask a question.
Of course, everybody. Nobody is guest and not guest. What are you talking about? We're all the same. We're all participating.
Mazal tov, Rami.
Hi, toda rabah. Thank you.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you.
It will be a tricky one, I guess.
Rita,
Yeah.
a question.
Yes.
You're condoning here in the verses here in your talk the value of patience, and I can certainly identify with that. But I wonder whether we need to make a distinction between patience to acceptable or minor things versus patience to totally unacceptable things, where patience to little things may lead to patience to catastrophes.
Yeah.
So it's in my mind, it's critical to differentiate between the two things.
Yeah, you're totally right. This is why I keep emphasizing awareness. Because you see, you can use all the Buddhist teachings as total poison by not doing anything, not reacting anything, by saying, for example, oh, everything is empty. You know, everything is just projected by the mind. Everything is just impermanent anyway. So we're all going to die. So what's the point? Yeah, that is the danger of patience. You're right, that one doesn't want to make changes. But that's not what is being said, you know, because at the beginning of this chapter, he talks about the disadvantage of anger. So it goes especially about anger. Like if you practice patience, then you won't get angry. And again, anger is defined not as a frustration for an unjust situation. Anger is defined as a wish to harm. And who can judge whether this is now the frustration that we need as a force or as an energy, having the courage to go in and change the situation? If it is that, or is it really a wish to harm? So you're the only one who can judge that. You know, when you look at, when we come to chapter 7, which is about enthusiasm, there is the forces of enthusiasm, and one of these forces is not to be content too quickly. Although, you know, being content is one thing that we want to develop also, but when you are advanced, then be careful that you're not too content. There are things huh?
I'm saying I'm good at that. I'm not becoming too content too quickly.
I'm saying when you are advanced.
That's a different issue, yeah.
Yeah, so first you learn to be, you know, it's the same thing with the useless and useful. You remember when we had this thing about one year, we talked about being useless, you know? When you have learned to be very, very useful and you become quite arrogant about this thing, like you identify with this, you are only happy when you're useful. Then you have to learn to become happy, unuseful. When you have learned to be content, then you start to be not content. So in order not to lose the energy on your path of wanting to transform. But if you are not content and you want to transform, it won't work, because you go with too much strength and too much aggression or aversion, because aversion and aggression exaggerates. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It can be, you know, this whole thing about patience can be, oh, I'm just sitting on my cushion and I'm just meditating and I'll be a Buddha really quickly and the world is going to pieces. Who cares? Yeah, it can be. It can also lead to this. That the citoyen, how do you say, the citizens are too happy and not noticing like injustice anymore and all this. Yeah, I think it's really good that we also had, even though, you know, nobody gets killed by the police here because they kind of stole something or something like that. But I'm really happy about these demonstrations against racism, because many people were not aware of how Black people feel here, how people with a hate scarf here feel, because Swiss people think they're tolerant, but they're not. You only feel how intolerant they are if like me, I walk around like a little bit different than other people, but I still don't know what they experience, because I can wear jeans and grow hair and then I'm part of the crowd again, you know. They will never be part of the crowd. So it's good that they were given a voice, that we start to understand how intolerant we actually are. You know, not as big as in the States and all this, but still, yeah. And then we have these in Germany, especially the right wing who is coming up, who, you know, we have one, I think she's a journalist, and she made an Instagram kind of thing because about the demonstrations, and she just said, well, you know, it's not very clever to have these big demonstrations at the moment where the coronavirus is starting to go down. That's all she said in that thing. And the extreme leftists, they accused her as being racist, and she received she received death threats. This is how, unfortunately, the world is going so extreme, you know, like those against those. I mean, it's terrible. It's really terrible. And then we forget what Einstein said. Can you remember? We started with this, I think, when he said, human being is part of the whole that we call the universe, but through a mental illusion, he sees himself as separate from others. And this creates a prison, and our task is to break out of this prison so we become us, you know. As the Dalai Lama said these last days, he said, making I and them is totally outdated. We cannot do this anymore these days. We're too connected with everybody, yeah. And unfortunately, we don't see ourselves as a part of a whole. This is why we call ourselves individuum. An individuum means not dividable, but we're just a part of something. But we see ourselves as separate, and this is what makes me and them, and then there's conflict, and then there's a problem. So the task is to make us, yeah? So yes, we have differences, but the differences that we have are very small. This can be another homework, which is a very interesting, I do this with the children when I do workshops. Find things that we have in common with many other people or with everybody else, you know. Vulnerability, fears, not happy, want happiness. You can go on and on and on and on about this list. Then find something where you can say, this is very individual. I only have this. Find something. What do you think that you are unique?
It's a good one. Yeah.
It's a very good one, because then we start to see how connected and how similar we are. You know, I mean, human beings, we are 99%, we are the same. One nose, two eyes, two ears. Okay, then color, skin, different. We have the same organs. We need the same vitamins. We need oxygen. We want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. And then over this one little maybe % difference, religion, race, language, colored skin, we make such a big difference. And we don't see in so many ways we're the same. And we're definitely the same that in everybody wants happiness and nobody wants to suffer. So you can sit down and make a list and try to see where I am unique. So you know, it's interesting. Don't just say nothing. Try really to find, because you come up with interesting things. Of course, the first thing is like fingerprints, DNA, but everybody has fingerprints and everybody has DNA. Or somebody said, somebody painted a picture for me. That's the only picture that that is a unique picture. Yeah, of course, but other people have unique pictures at home. So really try to think, and then we go like, no, not really, not really, not really. So you come closer to emptiness, because then it's not really that, but it's also not really that. Yeah. Like emptiness. In emptiness, nothing is absolute except emptiness itself. Conventional level, nothing is absolute. Everything is very complex. Everything has causes. These causes have other causes, need conditions in order to come about. So it's fascinating. But when our confused mind is making one cause, this is it, whoa, then everything freezes. Nothing, everything becomes static. Nothing moves anymore. It's not interesting anymore. To finish, because it's a very nice dedication, I would like to read the verses that the Dalai Lama, I don't know if you watched him, when he said he reads, because it was not translated, this was the thing. It was, I think when he talked on Nagarjuna, I think, the Ratnavali, and then all of a sudden, tack, it was finished. Now, of course, because we have people here who speak Tibetan, so she said, well, the Dalai Lama had finished, but the translator had not finished. But because the Dalai Lama had finished, they cut the transmission. And so what he was saying, that he's reading these 20 verses from Nagarjuna's Ratnavali every day. And we started to read it in the morning dedication that we do. And I found them very, very heart-opening. It's aspirations of a Bodhisattva. So these aspirations can serve as an aspiration why you do the practice, but it can also serve as a dedication that the positive energy that we have created now here together by talking and thinking about these things, that they will bring this kind of, they bring these results. So if you need to go and you don't want to listen to it, well, thank you very much for having listened to me until now, but it's perfectly fine because it's a little bit religious, not only the first 2 or 3 verses, but I find it very heart-opening because this is what I want, I mean, these verses are so beautiful. So I start, okay? Each day, 3 times a day, before a statue, stupa or elsewhere, you should perform the recitation of the following verses, honoring in all ways the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and also the Bodhisattvas. I take refuge in them and pay homage to those worthy of homage, like respecting those who are worthy to be respected. I turn away from all negativity and embrace all merit. I rejoice in all the merit amassed by all sentient beings. Firm determination. I want to live my own goodness. With bowed head and palms together, I beseech all perfect Buddhas to turn the wheel of Dharma and remain as long as beings remain. Through the merit of doing this and the merit I have done and I will do, may all sentient beings be endowed with unsurpassed bodhicitta. May all sentient beings have immaculate faculties and transcend the unfree states. May they control their own actions and live by right livelihood. May all embodied beings have jewels in their hands, and may a limitless amount of all kinds of necessities remain inexhaustible for as long as cyclic existence endures. At all times, may all people born of low status become supreme persons. May all beings be endowed with intelligence and compassion. May all beings have a good complexion, also good physique. May they be radiant and pleasant to behold, free of illness. May they be strong and live long. May they gain expertise in skillful means and become free of all sufferings. May they be devoted to the 3 rare sublime ones and have the great treasure of the Buddha Dharma. May they be adorned with love, compassion, joy, the ability to remain equanimous in the face of hardship, generosity, ethical conduct, fortitude, joyous effort, meditative stability, and wisdom. Thus, adorned, may they complete all the collections and obtaining brilliant signs and marks. May they traverse without hindrance the 10 grounds to the inconceivable. May I also be adorned with these good qualities and all others as well. May I become free from all thoughts and may I attain supreme love for all beings. May I perfect the virtues to which all beings aspire, and may I always dispel the sufferings of all beings. In all worlds, may all beings who are feeling anxious due to fear become completely fearless merely by hearing my name. From seeing and thinking of me, and from merely hearing my name, may beings become clear-minded, undisturbed, and at ease. May it be definite that they will awaken, and in all their future lives may they attain the 5 super knowledges. In all ways, may I always do what brings benefit and happiness to all beings. May I always dissuade all at once all those beings of any world who intend to engage in negativity without doing them any harm. This verse I find so beautiful. May I be able to stop beings from doing harm without me creating harm. It's so beautiful. Yeah. And the next one also. Like the earth, water, wind, and fire, medicinal herbs, and the trees in the wilderness, may I always freely be an object of enjoyment by all beings as they wish. May I be beloved of beings, and may they be more beloved to me than myself. May I bear the results of their negativity, and may they have the results of all my virtue. As long as there is even one sentient being somewhere who is not yet free, may I remain in the world for that being's sake, even if I have attained peerless awakening. If the merit of making such statements were to be material, it would not fit into worlds as numerous as the grains of sand of the Ganges. Yeah, if we would know what these kind of, the merit or the positive energy that these aspirations would create, it would not be able to fill the world, even if we have as many worlds as the grains of sand in the river Ganges. So we can finish this gathering here by you thinking, whoever sees, hears, thinks about me, speaks to me, or touches me, may it only be of benefit to them. Thank you very much. Have a very good week. And yeah, next week we just continue with the text. The text is not difficult to understand. It's just difficult to practice. That's all. It's not like Emptiness and Heart Sutra and Mula Madhya, Mika, Karika, who is like very difficult to understand. This one is a practice text. It's very easy to understand, but for me, it gives me very good hints and very good clues what I cannot do yet. And I find it very, very helpful to remember, okay, if I want to be patient, then I need to do this. I need to see the benefit of suffering. Benefit of suffering, it makes me stronger if I lean into it, and it decreases my arrogance. So it's a good thing. And it enhances compassion for others, as Carl said. Yeah. Empathy, we understand better. We don't become haughty, what are you complaining about? Okay, can we leave it at that? Okay, thank you very much.
Amira, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dalit. Now I know who you are. See? Seeing the medicine Buddha. I know you're here, even though it's only written in Hebrew. But you have a distinctive sign.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Take care.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Bye. Thank you.